So I was speaking with Abraham earlier today, and we're actually talking about a previous client. This particular client, they were sellers, and they were looking to relocate or move because they purchased their home maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And at the time when they made their purchase, they had kids, but they were little kids, toddlers, I believe. So they really didn't spend any time thinking about the schools that were near the property they decided to buy. Now, granted, Abraham and I were not their agents when they purchased that property. We met them last year, but they purchased the home and they really didn't think about the school at all. And so I just want to share why I think it's important, whether you have kids or not, to consider the schools when you're looking for a property. So they purchased the home, and finally, when their kids are old enough to attend school, they quickly found out that their home was actually located, and it was a very nice home, by the way, but their home was actually located in one of the lower rated schools in the county. It was considered a less than desirable school. And so they were not pleased immediately with the school. And so they put their kids into private school for a while before ultimately deciding to relocate. And so I say that it's important, and it's something that we stress in a lot of our videos. You want to research the schools. Like I said, whether you have kids or not, I think it's important for a couple of reasons. If you have kids, you want to make sure that you do some research into the school that they'll be going into immediately, but possibly even the school that they may matriculate to, right? So you just want to spend some time looking into that. I know a lot of people, particularly in our area, who are satisfied with the school, on the lower level and maybe even middle school, but then they decide they want to move up to a more higher rated school for when their kids are older. And that's pretty common because things are different than when I was growing up. I lived in the same house from the time I was in kindergarten until I went off to college, right? But I think that the expectation here is that you'll live in a home for a few years. I think that it's important, no matter how long you plan on being in a home, that you consider the school, because the home and the location that you buy in is the same home you have to sell, which means that if you bought a house in this area where the school is less than desirable, just because you didn't do research into the school doesn't mean that the next buyers are not. Or you may actually exclude a whole market of buyers. If you buy a home in an area that the school isn't so great, then there may be a whole segment of buyers who don't even consider your home because of the school. So I think it's important from an investment standpoint when you think about who you can market your home to. So if you do not consider the schools, you may not be able to market to those people who are looking into the schools. And typically what we see is there are a couple of ties between good schools or better rated schools and homes. So a lot of times your better rated schools, you're gonna have a better neighborhood, an area with more amenities, maybe a little bit nicer, quieter, maybe something that more people are interested in. The next thing is stability. So usually when you have a market where it's more desirable, then word of mouth gets around, other people know that it is a good area with better rated schools. And so people want to get into that community. And so then finally, even if you don't have kids, there may be people who know, okay, well, the highest rated schools, higher sales prices, like those two kind of go hand in hand. Even here in Fairfax County, our highest rated public school is in the highest or most expensive zip code. Now, that doesn't mean that when you're looking for a home, you have to buy a home in the most expensive area, but I think that it is important that you research the different schools, that you spend some time, again, whether you have kids or not, that you spend some time seeing what's available in the area, what people are saying. I research schools a lot. As a parent, I've done it many times. And then I also do it a lot for our business. And so there are a couple of websites that I frequent, and that's niche.com, which you've heard me mention before. I like niche.com because they give you a lot of insight into the different categories and how each area is weighted when they're determining the school's rating. But one thing I don't necessarily love about their system is I feel that they're very generous with some of their ratings, meaning that you're hard pressed to find a school that has below a B rating. And so alternatively, we have great schools, which is, I believe, even more popular with parents. I feel like their rating system is a little bit more harsh, in my opinion. I feel like there are very few schools that have higher ratings there. Recently, US News started rating elementary schools. They previously had only done high schools. So US News is another one I really like because it's mostly about test scores with US News. And then finally, Public School Review is probably my favorite, but they don't rate all schools. But Public School Review is probably my favorite because they look at a number of different factors, including student to teacher ratio, ratio, as well as the number of students in advanced placement, test scores, things of that nature. So I recommend that you check them all out, or a few of them out. If you're not a parent, maybe you don't have to spend as much time researching it. But if you are a parent, you may want to spend a little bit more time on doing that research, especially if you're relocating, because it's even more difficult when you don't know anything about the area. A lot of times it comes down to a couple of different things when you have a family you're relocating here. So schools may be a big deal. That may be of importance to you. But then also you have to take into consideration commute and your budget. If you can let us know what your top priorities are, then we can help guide you and figure out where you want to be. But you have to let us know, like, these are the most important things. And again, we can't necessarily tell you which schools are the great schools or the best schools. That's for you to decide for yourself. But we can definitely point you in the right direction towards those resources so you can figure it out. Because like I said, this client at the beginning of the story did not do any research. They just found a house and it was a nice looking house. So they bought the nice looking house. And then finally, I want to circle back to what I said at the beginning about the house, is that it was a nice looking house, but it does affect how you're able to sell your home, because even in a market that was starting to heat up, because this was like kind of towards the beginning of the pandemic, it still took a little bit longer to sell their home because homes in that particular area just did not sell as quickly. And I do believe that the school is a part of it. It was not an area, rentals did not fly off the market in the area. There were not a lot of sales in the area. And I do believe that there's a direct correlation, because real estate is all about location, 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 location. And that just was not the best location, being tied to one of those less than desirable schools. Also, if you haven't already, please check out down the link in the description for the perfect home questionnaire. You complete that questionnaire and either myself or Abraham will get back with you to answer any questions you may have about your relocation and your plans to move to Northern Virginia in the near future. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week.